Have you ever had that voice in your head that keeps you from doing anything? That voice that judges everything you do? Yes, you might have imposter syndrome.
You're never going to make it. Look at that disaster.
So what exactly is imposter syndrome? It's like our brains are wired to hold us back right when we are on the verge of something great. Let me tell you my story, and I bet some parts will sound familiar to you. This is me, a crazy, happy little boy, back when I was in Dominican Republic, drawing in my happy place. My friends will say things like, "Wow, you're so talented," and "I wish I could draw like you." And you know what? I believed them. I would spend hours drawing characters, creating little fantasy worlds, completely absorbed in the joy of creation. I wasn't worried about being good enough or comparing myself to others. I was just creating, being exactly who I was meant to be. But something happened as I grew up. As we enter our teenage years, suddenly everyone has an opinion about your future. The messaging changes from do what makes you happy to be practical or think about making money. In my last year of high school, I heard it all. Design is not a career. You'll never make enough money. It's too competitive. And I listened. I pushed aside my passions and enrolled in IT and networking courses. On paper, I was doing great. I had the technical aptitude, but inside, I felt like I was wearing someone else's life. With each step away from my authentic self, that imposter feeling grew stronger. I wasn't just an imposter in design anymore. I felt an imposter in my own life. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, all because I let other people's voices drown out my own. College should have been my redemption arc, right? I finally enrolled in a graphic design program, but that voice was louder than ever. You're not as good as others. You'll never find a job. Who do you think you are? Halfway through my bachelor's degree, I dropped out, convinced I was not good enough. Instead, I took a minimum wage retail job to survive. That's what imposter syndrome does. It makes us self-sabotage. We run away from the very things that could fulfill us because we're so afraid of being exposed as frauds. But rock bottom has a purpose. The pain of denying my true path became greater than the fear of failure. So I went back. I finished my bachelor degrees in communication design, and 6 months later, I landed my first real design job. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But it was mine. And each project, each client, each challenge started to build something I've been missing. Evidence that I belonged in this field. The more I designed, the more confident I became. Not because I was suddenly the best, but because I was finally doing what I was meant to do. And here's what I realized. Imposter syndrome thrives in the theoretical, but dies in the practical. When you're actually doing the work, the voices get quieter. So, how do we actually overcome imposter syndrome? Based on my journey and some solid research, here are 3 approaches that worked for me. Number 1, place yourself in challenging situations. The only way past imposter syndrome is through it. For me, this meant showing my work to people I admired, applying for jobs that I didn't feel ready for, and pitching ideas that scare me, like doing these kind of videos. Each time I survived one of these challenges, the voice that said, "You can't," got a little quieter. Number 2, disregard others' opinion. Not all feedback is created equal. I had to learn to differentiate between constructive criticism from people who understood design versus arbitrary opinions of people who didn't get it. Your parents or your friends might be amazing people, but if they are not designers, their opinions on your career path might not be the most relevant. Number 3, remember that practice makes perfect. There is no shortcut around this one. The more you design, the better you get, period. This is why quantity often beats quality when you're learning a new skill. It's about repetition, not perfection. Every bad design teaches you something valuable, and before long, those bad designs start becoming good ones. I love thinking about this journey like a butterfly metamorphosis. Inside that cocoon, the caterpillar dissolves into goo before rebuilding itself into something new. The messy middle part, that's where the transformation happens. Your imposter syndrome might feel like that gooey middle stage, but it's not the end of your story. It's just part of your metamorphosis. So let me ask you, what creative projects have you been putting off because you don't feel ready or good enough? What would you create if that voice of doubt went quiet even for a day? Because, spoiler alert, you might never feel ready. In fact, I am not ready, and I don't think anyone is. Starting now, imperfect as it might be. Because here's something that I wish someone told me years ago. The world needs your unique perspective, your designs, your voices, and even your beautiful imperfections. If you're a content creator, now that you're ready to tackle imposter syndrome, you need to watch my other video, how to create a logo for your personal brand. That way you can start creating for your social media.